Good evening, my little darklings. It's been a while, but I'm back and we're live tonight. Ghostly regrets in the afterlife. On our programs, we've discussed how to make things right in this life so that we don't need the aid of mediums and psychics to try to communicate in the afterlife, to put things right that might have been left unset. But what happens to the spirit as it crosses over? Are they left with regret? Is it possible that they hang out in the afterlife holding on to hope that they could have made things right? Or do they go on to some other level? Do they just immediately begin to elevate, escalate, and heal? We're going to talk about that with our guest tonight. Michael Bodine is a longtime friend of our program. He has been on and off of my shows for the last 15, 16 years, always insightful, informative, and entertaining. And tonight we're going to look at some of these questions. I do want to mention there will be a trigger warning for those of you listening that we may discuss elements that you will find uncomfortable, from suicide to murder. So if that is something that will upset you because it's something you've dealt with, we understand if you need to tune out. But maybe you need to listen. Maybe you'll get the answers tonight that you've been seeking all along. We'll cover that and more when we return to the best in paranormal programming. This is the Paranormal 60 with Dave Schrader.
I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this baloney.
You won't know. He doesn't stand for baloney.
Sounds like a lot of supernatural baloney to me.
Supernatural, perhaps. Baloney, perhaps not.
Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in and spending some time with me here this evening. I also want to make mention, in case you missed it, I know you were looking for the live shows. We did have some great episodes over the last few weeks. A few weeks ago, we had the very first of our Freaky Friday flips, where you actually got a chance to hear the band members from Bowling for Soups, Gary Wiseman and Jarrett Reddick, interview me about the paranormal. We had a great conversation filled with lots of love and laughter and enjoyment, so I hope you had a chance to check that out. Last Friday, Bridget Marquardt, the Ghost Magnet, the Girl Next Door, that's right, Playboy Playmate and Hugh Hefner alum, was the one that turned the script on me, and we did another edition telling ghost stories and sharing strange tales. I hope you tuned in and checked that out. If you haven't, they live right now on our YouTube channel, so you can find us right here and watch all of the past episodes. Or if you're listening to the audio-only versions, make sure to tune in and check those episodes out. They are insightful. It's great to hear a different side of the story. Plus, you get to hear what some of the people that I've interviewed feel about the paranormal. And Bridget will be joining me on an upcoming episode where she'll be sitting in the hot seat and I'll be throwing the questions her way. So make sure you keep checking that out. Had a great time in Ireland. Just got back and we are ready to roll. We've got a lot of good things. The Paranormal News crew is busy putting together news stories for this week. We got a lot to catch up on, and they will be on live Friday night with me. So I hope you'll tune in and check that out as well. And I'd love to have feedback from you as you listen to our program. If you have thoughts and ideas, concerns, things that you'd like to know more about, or more topics that you'd like us to discuss, you can always email me, Dave at paranormal60.com. That's Dave at paranormal60.com. And I will be happy to see if we can work those in upcoming episodes. And remember, we also want you to be a part of those upcoming episodes, like this Friday's live show. If you have had a strange supernatural occurrence, whether it is with a cryptid creature or perhaps a mythological beast, maybe a Ouija board story that went horribly wrong or perhaps horribly funny, and you'd like to share that, maybe a ghost tale, a diabolical visit, anything that fits under the category from aliens to monsters, myths, and legends, we want you to feel comfortable sharing it here on the Paranormal 60. All you have to do is email me, Dave at paranormal60.com. And if you'd like to be on with us this Friday live to share your story, and we ask you to keep the stories between 3 to 5 minutes long. If you'd like to do that, email me, Dave at paranormal60.com, and we will entertain having you join us on the Paranormal 60 News this Friday night. So now that that's out of the way, let's get to tonight's topic. Again, our guest is Michael Bodine. He comes from a long line of sensitives and mediums, psychics. He is a ghostbuster and has been here in Minnesota along with his sister Echo. They've gone out to help spirits cross over, to clear homes, to deal with the dead in ways that others find very alarming. But what I do find funny is that Echo Bodine, who is a local legend as well here in Minnesota, is still terrified of ghosts. Michael, why is your sister afraid of ghosts?
She doesn't like things that move too quick. She doesn't like things touching her and stuff. She's scared to death.
I understand.
Like, a lot of times they know that too, so they'll like tap her on the shoulder or something,
So
or pull her hair.
they muck with her.
And she'll start freaking out. It's like walking into a spider web or something like that. She'll just, it's really easy to get her freaked out. All you have to do is go, sis, look behind you. And she just,
I know. Here, I went to a paranormal investigation with Echo, and she's hiding behind me. I'm like, you're the one that sees the dead all the time. She goes, oh, I know, honey. But you're coming to me. I'm all prepared for it. I don't like going into haunted places and having them jump out, because they do like to scare you and they like to mess with you. And she was really worried about it. It was kind of comical, but funny to see happen. And then I've been ghost hunting with you, and you're totally the opposite of it. You're kind of like, bring it on. And you kind of put these spirits in their place when they start mucking about with you a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's worked out better for me to have that kind of attitude. When I was a kid, I was scared to death of them because I didn't know anything. I didn't know any better. But then as I got older, I got tired of being afraid of them. I got tired of catering to their whims, and they were all around my house all the time when I was a kid. They were everywhere, and they scared the crap out of me. And so I just thought, screw it, I'm gonna either leave or do something, or not be afraid. And so I guess when I was pretty young, probably 12 or 13, I just decided, screw this, I'm not going to be afraid of them anymore. And
well, we will mention,
once
you've got your book, Growing Up Psychic, Michael Bodine, From Skeptic to Believer, that's out there talking about your journey. And we do have a link up for that in our Amazon shop. Also his follow-up book, A Psychic's Life, What It's Really Like, by Michael Bodine. So I wanted to make sure we mention those. Nice. And again, we have a link up to Michael's website and how you can order books, get readings, keep in touch with Michael, all right below on tonight's program guide. You've got this ability. It's been kind of a lifelong journey with your family of doing these things, communicating with the dead. And I get a lot of questions. People come to me, and I thought this would be a great time to kind of focus a full episode on different aspects of death. And as I said in the opening, so many of us on this side are left with regrets, things unsaid, undone, and we're heartbroken that we didn't get to say that last thing or clear up a misunderstanding. Do the dead feel that way, Michael? Or when they're released from this physical form, are they already enlightened and on their way to wherever they're going next? How does that work?
Yeah, okay, so it's been my experience when because of what I do, I go to a lot of people when they're about to die, like friends of mine or people that I know, their friends or something. I'll go to their house, or I'll go to the hospital or something when they're about to pass. And so I've been around a lot of death for some reason. And it's, sometimes there's sometimes there's these great, like, beautiful angels that come down and kind of help you with the process and get you going and make you help you transit, go from one spot to the other. And then there's other times, I went to a shopping market a long time ago, and it was like just starting to get winter like, and so it was starting to get dark really early, and I pulled up, and there was a bunch of cops and ambulance people. Somebody had passed out or something right outside the door, and there's a bunch of people sitting around watching and stuff, and there's this guy just feverishly just pounding on this guy's chest, and we're all standing around, and they put this guy in a gurney, and they're still pounding, and they put him in the ambulance, and so everybody just kind of dispersed, and it was really a weird vibe, and there was three people there. There was me, this one, a Spanish lady, she looked Spanish, I think, and then there's this guy. and we were all just looking at each other like, wow, that was weird. And the lady looked at me and I looked at her, and we could tell that the guy that was standing there was the guy that they just put in the gurney. He was standing there
Wow.
just like going, what's going on? What happened? What is this? And you know what the weird thing? And she looked at me kind of like scared. She kind of crossed herself, you know, and then looked at him
Mhm.
and then went in. And I watched him look at me like, well, what do I do? What do I do? He had no clue about what to do. And I just pointed to the ambulance, you know, just go in. And he went in, and then a couple minutes later, the ambulance shut off its lights and just kind of drove off slowly. So, you know, obviously he died. They weren't in any hurry. But the weird thing about it was you could tell it freaked him out because there was nothing he could do. It was done. It was over. That's it. Boom. The cord's been cut. Whatever he had or he wanted to do is too late.
We have a question from
And
Janice.
so-
I'll get to that in a minute, but I wanted to ask you with that, because we hear these spirits that are kind of thrown out and they don't know what's going on. And I've talked to some people that have had near-death experiences, and they remember driving in the car, and then all of a sudden they're thrown out of the car and they see the accident happen. It reminds me of that TV series Dead Like Me. Did you ever watch that TV show? I think it was on Showtime.
Yeah.
Where the Reaper's job was to come collect you just before death so you didn't have to live through that pain.
Yeah.
So is there something to that, Michael? Do we eject prior to the strike, to the moment we physically die? So that
a lot of times, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
there
I
is
hear
that confusion of, hey, what just happened to me? Why am I here? What's going on?
Right. And it's really to avoid the whole pain of it all. I was in the fall, I was involved in a really bad accident. I was we were driving, and this lady driver that was driving, I was in a van, decided to pass this truck. We're going like 80 miles an hour. She overcorrected, and the thing flipped like 4 times. And I remember as it's happening thinking, oh, good, I'm going to step out of my body because I don't want to, I don't want to be aware of being dead. But I knew because I wasn't stepping out of my body that I was going to live, because I was fully conscious of everything. And I had other experiences where I was almost going to die, and I have stepped out of my body. I have seen myself on the operating table or in different situations. And it's like my soul has left at that. And I'm watching myself like a movie. But and in that instance, I knew I wasn't going to die because I was being tossed around.
You were still bouncing
I
around.
was fine. A couple of stitches. Yeah. And it was, but it was, I kind of it would have been nicer to be sort of out of my body at that point, because it was scary, man. It was loud and violent and terrible. But I think a lot of times they take souls out so that they don't have to experience that, because it's just it's
traumatic,
violent.
Sure.
Yeah, it really is.
Janice Fritch asks, do relatives really come to take you and help usher you on to the next life?
Okay, so I had a buddy of mine who I love. And this guy didn't really believe in all this stuff. He didn't really believe it. He's a great guy, funny guy, and he had cancer and he was on his way out. And in his case, so his whole family was there too, and they didn't believe in this stuff at all. I mean, they were raised Catholic, but they didn't believe in this stuff at all. And when he was passing, the colors of the room changed. It was like the hue changed. It was like this beautiful amber color, and his mother recognized this person that came down as her sister or somebody in the family, and she just starts bawling because she could see this lady, and his brothers, who were just hard, these are hard guys. They didn't believe in this stuff at all. They could see their father, because his father had passed, and his father came down, and it was like this. You could see he was going off with his relatives and his friends, and it was like emotional, really emotional, just because they got to see their relatives they haven't seen for a long time, and it changed their whole thinking. I mean, they changed their whole life after that. The brothers changed their whole profession, and everybody that was in the room at that point, after that, they looked at the world in a different way, because they all saw it, and they didn't believe in that stuff before.
that is called a shared near-death experience, folks, for people
Right.
that are in the presence of someone transitioning and passing.
Right.
We know that we've heard these stories of the person passing, seeing loved ones come together. There are these rare instances where the living with that person also witnessed this. That's very rare, but it's
Yeah,
wow,
it
what an
was. It was
incredible
so
moment.
cool. God, you should have been there. It was just like, it was amazing. It was like this beautiful color and these guys, and it was very touching because it was, you didn't feel bad, but you knew that he was gone forever. But
Mhm.
then all that was left was his body, and everybody was okay with it. It wasn't like people were mourning or really bummed out. It was like they knew that there is this life after there, that there is
Right.
something else out there, and
Oh,
people
that's
can decide
beautiful.
for themselves whatever they want it to be. But it was, and a lot of times when I ghost bust, and I get a really stubborn ghost or somebody that doesn't want to go, you bring in a relative or you bring in somebody that is on the other side, and they help they help convince that person to go. But it's this reunion, it's this connection thing. And the thing about it is that once you see that, you realize
Right.
that there is this other thing out there. There really is. And you can believe it whatever you want. I don't blame people for not
I
believing
I
that stuff, but I've seen it. I've seen it
I
more than
love
once.
I love a few of these stories I've heard, Michael, where like the mother is passing away and she's, holding hands with the child or somebody there. And she goes, do you think the angels and my family will come? And they're like, yeah. And she goes, oh God, I hope not your dad. I had enough of him in this lifetime. I don't want to have to see him right when they pass. And some of them are
Yeah,
vehement
exactly.
about, I better not see that son of a show up and deal with that. So it's kind of funny that, as we're transitioning, even in that moment, we still can't give up that little modicum
Yeah,
of anger and resentment. And that's like the last person
yeah,
you want to see when you cross over. At my house, we keep my mother-in-law's ashes on the other side of the room from the father-in-law's ashes, simply out of respect. That I'm sure
exactly.
the last thing the mother-in-law
Yeah,
wants at this point is to have to hang out with Ed for another eternity. So we always keep those
exactly.
ashes separated for our own mentality. Now, let's
Yeah,
talk
my
about
mom
the
was the same
tougher.
way.
Let's talk about the tougher aspect of this, because suicide touches most of our lives.
Yeah,
Um, and
does.
it's a very tough discussion, and a lot of us believe in the dogma of what church has told us, that it is the ultimate sin, and therefore you're immediately thrown to hell, and that's it. I've often believed, and coming from a Christian perspective, because that's all I know, is the fact that I just don't believe my God would take somebody who's in a mental state, who is not clearly thinking, and ends their life. I just can't see him punishing somebody that's ill like that. To me, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
What's your
I don't.
take on it from people you've come across that have ended their own lives and are now in spirit?
So you talk about hell. There's all sorts of different versions of hell, and
Right.
I'm not a big believer in that. They say that hell is passing and reviewing and being in the presence of somebody that is just this loving presence, whatever you want to call them, and feeling that love, and then seeing your life and all the decisions you made and the people that you hurt and the lies that you did and the opportunities that you didn't take in front of this very loving being. I mean, that is what the psychics used to call hell, is reviewing your life and not being really happy about it, being embarrassed by it. The suicide stuff. I've noticed that when I run across souls that have committed suicide, they tend to be a little stuck. I don't know that they're being punished, but it seems like the people that they've affected, they kind of have to watch the ramifications of their decision. That's their hell, is to see the effects of what they decided to do um, on the people that stayed. And it's not always the case. Like some people, they have medical issues and they have a lot of pain and all that stuff. That's kind of a different thing. But
Mhm.
I think sometimes in some cases, the hell for those people is to have to be witness to all the effects of what their death had on the people that are still around.
Yeah, I've
So I
heard that.
guess
I've heard that from many different mediums and psychics I've spoken with, I've had some strange visitation dreams where spirits, or for lack of a better term, angels, have given me that information as well, where they
Yeah.
explain to me that, hell is what we make of it, what we put into things, and what
Right.
we do. So we do revisit those moments and see the long-term effect of how it played out for the people we hurt. And
Yeah.
maybe if you realized how powerful those moments meant,
Yeah.
there's that great adage of you take a perfectly pristine piece of wood and you pound a nail through it. That's like, Michael, I hate you, you dirty so-and-so, you son of a, that's drilling the nail in. And then I go, man, Michael, I'm sorry. And I pull that nail back out and I go, man, I was in such a bad mood. I'd been drinking. I just wasn't myself. You can pull back what you said, but you always leave that gaping hole in that perfect piece of wood. So there's always that piece of that
Yeah, that's a
person
good
that's been
analogy.
removed.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to live is, and I think that is the hell that we create for ourselves, right? Like Dickens says in the Christmas Carol, when Jacob Marley is talking to Ebenezer Scrooge, and he's got all these long chains, and he goes, these are the chains I forged in life. Each link basically is all the crap that he did to other people. And now he has
Right.
to live with the burden of that weight until he can work it off. And I think
Right.
that, boy, if anything, that's been one thing that's really tried to dictate in my life how I want to live my life, so that listen, I'm lazy here, Michael. I don't want to carry around a lot of heavy chains in the afterlife. So I'm trying to just, be
Right.
nice, be kind, try to help people do good, so that those links and the people that you affect are not affected permanently or wounded. I'd rather leave them with a smile in their heart than with a hole that I have to try to spackle up later.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's it's not even, it doesn't even have to be big things. It could be
Mhm.
complimenting somebody on a, daily basis, or
Right.
bringing out something when they're, they're having a bad day, just easing up on them a little bit,
Right.
just because, it was drilled in my head over and over that you do review your life, you do review your life. And so I think about that all the time. And,
Mhm.
I got a lot of regrets already about stuff that I've done and said. But, the thing about Earth and what we're here is, it's a pretty basic planet. Or they say that it's a pretty basic planet, and that we're here to learn pretty basic. It's like dumb school for, driver's ed.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're all here to learn. Every one of us, all the, even John Lennon, who I love, was a really terrible dad, and not a good guy with women, and everybody has all these different issues that they're here to work on, even the great
Right.
ones, Gandhi loved Hitler, just just different things. I think I think if you can just make even just little improvements, just little bits here and there, it does go a long way, because it'll at least give you a pause. So when you're looking at all the crap you did, you can go, oh, shoot, here comes something good where I was nice to somebody.
Yeah.
Then you can go back to being, the review.
Well, it's like I tell my daughters when they take babysitting jobs, I go, you know what? It doesn't hurt you to do the dishes while you're there, because, leave the place a little better than you found it, because that's going to leave an indelible mark that's going to make people go, God, I paid her to come do this. And not only did she watch my kids and they were great and taken care of, but she tidied up. She did
Yeah,
something outside, and she made this a better place, and something that alleviated stress, or one more job for me when I came home. And I've tried to recommend that to my children. And when I go to watch my grandchildren, I'll do the same. If I notice there's a sink full of dishes, I'll wash them up and put them in the dishwasher and run it for them, or tidy up and wipe everything down with Clorox wipes, just so that it's one less thing. And I think that's a good
yeah,
way to lead life, is having those moments where you just try to do something better. And
right.
I wonder if that helps in the people that are like, I deal with depression and anxiety and have my whole life, but I
Yeah, me
notice when
too.
I get outside of my head and I do something kind for somebody else, it lifts me, because
Yeah, exactly.
I'm no longer in that darker corner. When I paint myself there at times, if I find I reach out and I start answering emails and people that are asking for help or questions about the other side, or about the
Exactly. Yeah.
paranormal, or just complimenting somebody online, I realize even those little baby steps start bringing me back out of that depression shell I'm in.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to kind of resonate with people, and it's a good way to lift your energy back up and out of that dark space. It doesn't always work, but it's certainly it's a better start, and you're doing something proactive that isn't going to hurt you and can
Right.
only benefit mankind. But in the case of suicides, when, like you said, they're kind of dealing with this, do you speak to suicides? Do they wait? Are they afraid of judgment on the other side? Is that part of the reason that they'll
Yeah.
stay?
Yeah. But there's that weight, that bond, that connection. It's like the heaviness of the heaviness of their actions is
Mhm.
pretty weighs deep on somebody, on at least a few people that were affected by their death, and that weight really keeps them there. It's it's sad because I know a lot of times people go through this whole mental illness thing and they just want to feel free. They don't even want to die. They just don't want to feel this pain anymore. And so
Right.
I completely get why it would be difficult, but it's that's the thing that the frustrating thing that I've run across is that these people, um, they're still witness to the same stuff. They're still feeling the same stuff, but they can't do anything about it. In fact, now they can't do anything about it because they've lost their choices. And so when I've run across them, there's a heaviness and a kind of a just a giving up sense of them. Like, okay, they'll stay as long as the people that they affected are still here, and then they'll go. But it's been interesting too. Sometimes I've been around people that have committed suicide that have also seen their life getting, the people that that survived it or stayed, their life's getting better, and they start to feel better, and they start to kind of the people that committed suicide actually start to influence them in a positive way. It's like I've seen the opposite, where instead of the person that committed suicide just being all heavy and sad and all terrible, actually being encouraged later on with their life and seeing that these people did survive and that they're okay, and they actually kind of whisper in their ears from time to time, like, do this or do that. They're actually supportive. It's like they understand that they have a bit of a role still. It's just
Well,
kind of
then
interesting.
let me ask you this then. Would it help? See, I've often wondered, are we haunting the ghosts? Is it our want and desire to
Yeah,
not let
yeah,
go that keeps those forces here? If somebody committed suicide, is it a gift to give to their soul to say, I forgive that. I forgive that you
absolutely.
left and it hurts and I'll always
Hmm.
miss you, but I forgive you for it, so that they know that they're not being held in
Yeah,
perpetuity to your chain, that they
yeah,
can move on that way, feeling like, I don't understand why you did it, and I don't understand how you could do that and leave us all behind, but I respect that that was your decision, that was your life, and I love you and I forgive you, and I hope that you
yeah.
find peace wherever you go. Or is that too tree huggery, Michael? And you're the guy not to pull punches on me. Tell me.
I know that there's people in this world that benefit. This can sound morbid, but they have a friend of theirs that committed suicide. They hang on to that. They use that for
Mhm.
all their reasons, for all their failures, that they couldn't do it because they could never get past their friends. Their life was never going to be the same after their friend committed suicide, and that only makes that friend feel worse. It's
Mhm.
like they're killing people. They're not only killing themselves, but they killed this other person. And I think some people use that as an excuse. And what you just said, I think, is absolutely true. That when you get to that place where you can let that person go, you forgive them, it goes a long way. It goes a really long way. But people use that stuff. I know several people that talk about their friends committing suicide. They still keep the suicide notes. They still keep
Yeah.
the stuff just to kind of hang on. Like, see, I'm a victim here. I deserve to have a hard life. Blah blah blah. And they don't. They're just using it.
I call it the shield. It's a shield of honor, but it's really a shield of dishonor. It's all those labels we put on the outside of it, like the back of an RV, all the places we've been and seen. We put up this shield and we're like, "Ooh, but look right here. I was treated poorly as a child,
Right.
and over here my dog Tippy ran away, and over here my cousin killed himself." And we always find 100 reasons to enact
Exactly.
why we are sad, depressed, this in and I'm not belittling depression because it makes no sense. You could be in a great place. I'm married with a wonderful wife, amazing children, doing what I want in life, and then depression rolls in, and people go, "Well, what the flip is wrong with you, Schrader? You have everything you want." I don't know.
Oh
That's the
no, I'm
illogical
I'm the
nature
same
of
way.
depression, right? You're like, I
Yeah.
can't. And it's not because I'm holding up a shield going, but I'm allowed to feel this way because look at all these stickers from all the places I've been hurt. It's not that to me. It's the illogical nature of the way the brain ticks when dealing with depression.
Right.
So I don't want people, like you're saying, some of us hold on to it so that it's almost like a badge of honor. Look what I lived through. This is where I'm going. And it's okay if you say, look what I've lived through. And I'm here today, so you can be here today, as opposed to look what I've lived through. Pity me.
Right.
I should be allowed to have these mistakes in my life and do the things I'm doing because look at all I've got. And again, I know I sound condescending in saying that, and I'm not trying to, but it's giving you the perception of visualization of what that might look like.
I agree. Depression's hard, man. It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Before we go to the quick break here, a couple of ads to run. I want to finish up on the suicide angle of it. Talking about if we give them forgiveness, does that help loosen their constraints to move on? What else can we do to aid those spirits for healing? What else can we do so that we don't hold it to ourselves as well, and we're not beholden to that guilt?
Well, it's funny when you were talking about helping other people. When my old teachers, like my psychic teachers, because I've dealt with depression, I've had anxiety ever since I was 14, and just really, it's always been a struggle for me. And when I get to that place, there's just nothing that can kind of shake it. It's kind of like the moon cycles. You just it turns dark, and then eventually it starts to lift, but it turns dark. And when I go dark like that, there's just everybody seems to notice. And one time one of my teachers, Birdie, her name was, I was walking by and she goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "It's just, I don't know, I got the blues." And she yelled at me about, "Well, who are you helping? Who you helping?" And I thought, screw you, I'm the one that needs help. And she got really upset with me that I was, that was the time that I was going to be the most effective to help other people. And that it was going to be something I was going to have to live with my whole life. And I was going to have to learn how to live with it. And I think, to answer your question, I think understanding cycles, understanding that it's just going to happen with people, not judging those people when they go through it. Because I my whole family has depression, and it's even talking about it, and just instead of wallowing in it, because some people do like to wallow in it. I think understanding it and understanding that you're going to get through it, just how do you get through it the easiest way. And the same thing with some of these souls that have committed suicide, understanding that's just going to come with the dinner. They're going to be depressed about all this stuff, but not wallowing in it, and not regurgitating why they did it, letting it go, letting that part go so they can heal too. Because, we all got to go through it. Some of us have different degrees, and it's the same thing with a spirit that has committed suicide, because they're not going to be depressed their whole time. In fact, sometimes when they come out of that depression, they're just, oh my God, what did I do? And they have a hard time with what they did, and allowing them to understand that, but for the grace of God, go on. I could see there was a couple of times I was pretty close to killing myself. There was one time specifically that I thought for sure I was going to kill myself, but then fate interceded, and I could have been one of those spirits right now, just whispering in your ear, going, "Oh, what the heck," blah blah blah. But not helping them not take it too seriously, forgiving them, being understanding, not judging them, all that kind of stuff. That really helped.
I want to mention too, just as an aside, this is something that has worked for me, and I've noticed sometimes we get signs and they're not the signs we're expecting. And I find myself in a depressive state, and I will actually, it seems counterproductive or counterintuitive, I will go to my social media and I'll look, and all of a sudden I find somebody else who's in a depressive state, and I reach out to them. And I don't offer them advice. I don't tell them, "Oh, things are going to get, suck it up." None of the nonsense that doesn't work. But I reach out and I see Michael's in a bad place, and I've sometimes just picked up my phone and I've hit that little call button on Facebook, and I ring them, and they're like, "Hello," and I'm like, "Yeah, hey Michael, this is Dave Schrader from the Paranormal 60 and the Holzer Files, and I saw your message. I'm worried. Are you okay? Do you need somebody to talk to?" And sometimes in just that moment, they're realizing, oh, I'm not alone. There are people watching. There are people paying attention. And again, I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back. I'm saying it to give you, maybe there's a reason you're in that residence so that you can help somebody else. You can recognize the sign in somebody else. And a lot of times when I've been there for Michael and I make that call and then Michael tells me what's going on, I go, I understand, my friend. I'm sorry that you're dealing with this. You will get through it. And I'm here if you just need to vent or voice it, but you are loved. And I want you to know you're not alone. There are others like you, like me, that are going through the same thing. And sometimes it's just in that, again, them being able to realize they're not alone. It takes you out of that ego and id moment and puts you back into the, oh man, other people feel this way. And that's always helped me kind of get out of my own head once in a while. And it puts me back in that position again. I've credited Bruce Springsteen with that when I listened to Dancing in the Dark, when I had pulled that trigger and the gun didn't go off in my mouth twice. And I found that song. I suddenly heard the words and I'm like, oh, somebody else has been through this. I'm not the only guy. He's lived through it. Look at him. He's a huge rock star. He's living the life that he wants. I can do this. I'll get through it. And that pushed me. So sometimes, I want to, in my own way, be somebody else's Springsteen, meaning if I can just call you or message you and try to help out, maybe that's what all of us should challenge ourselves to do. When you're finding yourself in a depressive place, look for somebody else who might be there and reach out to them. Don't make it about you. When they start telling you their misery, don't start counteracting it with, well, if you think you got it rough, I've been bald since I was 20. I'm overweight and my goatee went gray when I was 35. It's not about comparing notes. It's about being there for somebody. Just unconditional love. Matt Johnson says, last time I felt depressed, I was taking a nap and a face of my dad appeared with a smile. It felt like he was alive. And I woke up knowing that he had passed, but I felt better. Oh, Matt, I'm glad that you got that message and that it was something that you could take and learn from. So I'm glad that happened for you. And I'm sorry that you found yourself in a dark space as well. But look, we've made it through.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. And it's funny too. I think we, in our lives, we connect with people that are similar to us in some ways. And I think a lot of times, a lot of people in my circle, they have kind of the same kind of thing where they go through this depression. They're their lives are really good. They're happy with themselves. But they go through this time and but because I recognize it in them, it's easy for me to just reach out to them when they have to. And it's like, it's part of getting through this, because this is a tough place to be. Especially now, it's a tough place to be. And
let's we have to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll discuss more. I've got a couple more hard questions, and then we'll talk about some more very strange aspects like walk-ins and what does it mean. And our time's going to fly, so we're going to try to power through this. So stay tuned. We'll be back for more right after this.
Hey, it's Chris Jericho here, just reminding you about the 4-leaf clover. Chris Jericho's rock and wrestling Rager at Sea, the 4th voyage, leaving February 2nd from Miami to Great Stirrup Key, our very own private island. This is going to be the biggest and best Jericho cruise ever, with the biggest lineup, the most fun. I guarantee it. Come join us for the vacation and the party of a lifetime. ChrisJerichoCruise.com. Cabin's still available. I want to see you there.
And I'll be there. That's right. You can come see me on the 4-leaf clover. I'm the paranormal contingent, and I think the Paranormal 60 news crew will be joining me on board. We might even try to have a bourbon or whiskey tasting night while we tell ghost stories and share aspects of the paranormal. So make sure that you sign up. You can get information at JerichoCruise.com, ChrisJerichoCruise.com for more of that information. All right. We've got other cool places to see me, like... Join us at a paranormal convention like no other. Admission is only $20 in Woodbridge, New Jersey for the 8th Annual New Jersey Para-Unity Expo. Woodbridge, New Jersey, July 23rd. Only $20 to see stars like The Ghost Hunters, Jason Hawes, Sherry D. Benedetti, Steve Gonzalez, and Dave Tango. We also have Amy Allen from TV's Dead Files, Jawan Mass, Dalen Spratt, and Marcus Harvey. The Ghost Brothers are back in the house. Dakota Layden, Chelsea Layden, Tanner Wiseman, and Alex Schrader from Destination Fear make their appearance. You'll also get to meet and see Chip Coffey with a live gallery, Dave Schrader from the Holzer Files and the Paranormal 60, Cody and Satori Hawes, the paranormal couple, John Zappis, the legend himself, will be on hand. You do not want to miss this. Plus, there's awesome vendors, psychics, mediumship readings, and more. Go to NewJerseyParaUnityExpo.com for tickets and information. That's www.NewJerseyParaUnityExpo.com.
I'm Cliff Barrickman, and I've found Bigfoot and beyond at the Oregon Bigfoot Festival and beyond at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds. Meet me and other cryptozoology experts like Jason Hawes of Ghost Hunters, psychic medium Sarah Lemos, Travel Channel's David Schrader, and more. Don't miss this one-day event, the Oregon Bigfoot Festival and beyond at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds. Get tickets today.
Oregon Bigfoot Festival, come on, come on.
Haunted Magazine, issue 34, is out June 7th, featuring exclusive interviews by Chris Fleming and Gail Porter about their new show, Spooked Scotland. Richard Estep investigates the Sally House. Sam Baltrusis shares a personal story about Salem. Kate Ray explores the gnomes of Wollerton Hall. The origins of Dracula by Neil Story. And there's much, much more. Order in print from the Haunted Magazine website or visit WH Smith in the UK, Barnes & Noble in the US, and outlets in Canada, Australia and New Zealand. Also available in app stores. And remember, don't be normal, be paranormal.
And we are a paranormal guys. I'm Dave Schrader. That's Michael Bodine, the medium and psychic. We are talking tonight about regrets. We've all had a few, but too few to mention. Let's get to it, though, in the afterlife. Dealing with, we've talked about suicide, we've talked about death and how these things are dealt with. And in the murder category, I think we can kind of sync it up with the suicide aspect, right? That people often wonder, well, you know, if there is no justice on the other side, but there is. If a murderer has to live through not only the life he stole, but has to live through every single person that was affected by that murder, living those multiple lifetimes, feeling that. Imagine the TV show like The Office, how the first time you watched it, you had that real gut churning feeling of, oh my God, I can't watch this. I feel so bad for people. Imagine that a millionfold, knowing that it's not a TV show meant for entertainment. This is something they have to live through. So I don't think it's an easy justice on the other side for murderers, and certainly murder victims have their own lot that they have to deal with in trying to let go. Do a lot of murder victims, you know, Hollywood wants us to believe they hang around, Michael, looking to solve their own crimes or begging for justice. Does that happen, or are they more apt to just let loose and go start again or heal?
You know, it's been my experience that when a murder victim is kind of free in a way, it's like maybe in their another life they had killed somebody and they got their karma's been paid up. It's like it's almost like a get out of jail card free kind of thing. It's like they're the ones that are free now. It's the people that did it that are kind of screwed. The souls that you know, committed the crime. I've been in a couple ghost bustings where they're screwed because now it's all on them. It's all they have to complete that karmic kind of thing. You know, they have the person that got killed is done. They're I don't want to say happy, but there's a lightness to them. There's a load taken off of them. And
you know,
I think they still feel bad.
It's interesting how many murderers have admitted that they were in jail being visited by those that they killed. I think their torment starts early on. and
Oh,
continues well
absolutely.
into the
Yeah,
afterlife for
absolutely.
them.
Yeah, I think it helps if you're a little crazy, because then you don't have to take it too seriously.
Mhm.
But I think it's been difficult for people that, uh, yeah. Okay, so I worked with this one guy that was his job to kill people. He worked for the government and he killed a lot of people, and his house was filled with a lot of people that were a little bugged that he killed them.
Yeah, I would guess.
And he had a hard time reconciling that. He was tormented. He was a good guy. They just wouldn't leave him alone, and they weren't mad at him. They were just like saying, "Hey, remember me? Hey, remember me?" And that was it. But he
Mm,
had a lot of people that he had sort of done away with, and
yikes.
but they were kind of in they were in a better place. Um, I've run across a couple people that were pissed that they died, that they were murdered, just basically because it wasn't supposed to go that way, and the person um, jumped the gun or something like that. So there were still some unresolved issues that weren't fair, but um, they seem to have the benefit of like um, tag you're it, like they were it now, kind of thing. There was
Gotcha.
a lightness to it, yeah. But
All
I
right.
don't know.
Now
It's a whole
here's
different thing.
one more kind of heavy thing before we move on to things like walk-ins and what that really means. But
Walk-ins, yeah.
this is something that I'm curious about, and it's something that affected our life. My wife and I, are going on our 5th anniversary together. We got pregnant. She
Oh,
unfortunately
nice.
lost her baby early on in our relationship, our marriage. But she holds on to that, and it eats at her. And I know many people that have lost that they kind of feel they heap it on themselves like it's a failure of them that this pregnancy didn't take on. How can we come to terms with a loss like that? And for men, I don't believe it's as impactful because we weren't building and
Right, the physical
brewing
thing,
it,
yeah.
right? It's much more harmful for the women, but what can we do that they can commune with the spirit? Do you recommend that instead of holding on to it and letting them eat them alive like a cancer?
I was taught, and it's been my experience that
Mhm.
when a soul just decides for whatever reason, maybe it didn't want to be born on a certain date for astrological reasons, or maybe it just didn't want to be born at a certain time for what was coming up or whatever. But it's not. It was, and a lot of times that soul will choose to come back at a different time, but
Mm.
it just decided, no, I can't come right now. And it's really that simple. It wasn't about that the mother wasn't a good mother, or that they
Right.
did something different. It was just really simple. The spirit just, I think I'm going to wait maybe another year when this is that and this, because the lessons that they have to learn are going to be better learned at that time or whatever.
But
And it
that
wasn't.
that leaves the butterfly effect and the repercussions on those that are left behind in a way that's indelible. We have friends that have lost, miscarried children, child after child. Is that child still a part of them and of their life? Should they try to communicate with that child? How do we put that away? How do we move on and heal
Well,
to get past that?
yeah, okay, and again, this is just what I was taught and what I believe, but in my little
Mhm.
head, the soul comes into the body when the baby's born, and the vessel of that is created in the 9 months. But the soul, at least in my way of thinking or what I was taught, isn't in the baby until it's actually born. That's what I was raised to think, or that's what the old psychics used to tell me. Um,
And folks,
that
don't
when the
turn this
when
into a hot button topic that's going on in America right now. We're discussing more of this in the miscarriage sense of things. So I don't want to, I just try to keep out of
Yeah,
the loop of what I can already hear the typewriters going, the keyboards clicking.
I know.
Um, of when does life begin? This isn't an open debate on this. Michael's just giving you his perception of this,
Yeah,
right,
that
wrong,
was
or indifferent. It's that moment. But what can we the living do to let go of that so that we can heal and make ourselves feel better?
well, honestly, Dave, there's not much you can do. It's to kind of hang on to that is not doing you or anybody else any good, or certainly not ever that soul. It's to kind of hang on to it is like almost punishing yourself and the soul and everything else for whatever reason it didn't work out. It's not about you did something wrong or they did something wrong or that they weren't the right person or this or nothing like that. It's it's in my way of thinking that really when you're born the soul comes in and you can almost see it. You can almost see it. You know, I have a couple kids and I have like 3 grandkids, and I've been there with my daughter's babies, and when they first came out, you could there's something there, but then a little while later it's almost like you can see the souls in there now. It's like there's
the
a different
allspark
thing, and
right.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, like yeah, and so I you know, miscarriage. I don't know. I don't. I'm not. That's above my pay grade, really. But I do know that it's souls change their mind. Souls change their mind.
Well, I've seen mediums and readings that will say, you know, there's a little girl with you, and you know, she's like, no, I didn't.
I see that all
did
the
you have a
time.
miscarriage? And they're like, okay, yeah, I had a miscarriage. Well, I think the soul is still with you. I think, is that a reality or is that?
Well, yeah, I think that's reality, but I also think that means, like, I see souls all the time hanging around people, and to me that means that they're getting ready to come down, that person's probably going to get pregnant, you know, that it's going to be so when people come to me for reasons, I can always tell when they're going to have a baby because there's souls hanging around, sometimes just one or sometimes 2, and you can always tell, and it's always just a timing thing. It's like they're trying to catch the ring as it goes around, like they want to be born at a certain time and they want certain things to happen and blah blah blah. Who knows? But it's right there, you know. You can tell that they're going to get pregnant within 3 to 6 months just because it's just so anxious to come through. And I think, like in miscarriages, maybe the spirit was just waiting and the body wasn't ready, so they're going to wait again for this little vessel to come through, and then they'll jump into that. But I know they hang around for a reason, not to punish you or not to make you feel bad or like, oh, geez, you screwed up or you should have done it. You know, that's not how it goes. I've
always tried to do it, you know, again, advice is what it is, right? We don't live that moment, so it's hard to sometimes give that advice, but I've tried to, you know, in my own case with my mom, I could wallow and feel like crap for the rest of my life that I lost my mom, or I can make sure that I make the best out of the life I have so that I'm not disservicing her memory by locking down and shutting down. If you've lost this baby, let's now live a life for that baby. Let's live a life that will extend our lives to make it a better place in this child's honor. Is that, again, coming too egocentric, or is that maybe a better way to deal with things in looking at as honoring instead of grieving constantly?
Yeah, well, is it that you guys aren't going to have children anymore? Have you decided not to do that?
No, at my age, I'll be going into diapers as the last one is coming out of diapers, Michael. So we're kind of, we figured that at that point, and sadly with my wife's health issues, things haven't aligned that would have given us that opportunity again. But, and it's not just for my wife. Like I said, we know many people, and I'm contacted often by women that have lost a baby in miscarriage, and they just don't know how to move past it, and they, a lot of it's the failure feeling, a lot of it's the what they're putting upon themselves, and I don't know how to tell them to lift that. I know the spirit, the child certainly wouldn't want that for the mothers, so it's kind of a tough moment.
That is tough. It's the same kind of thing with having a friend of yours commit suicide. People tend to hang on to that stuff, and there's a benefit to hanging on to it. It's usually a negative benefit, but there's a benefit to hanging on to it. Like it's filling a space somehow. It's making you feel maybe unable to just continue life, and it gives you an excuse to not just do stuff. But it's certainly not something that they're not trying to punish you over and over again for it.
Maybe we need to figure life out like like that book, right? The book, Don't Eat This, Eat That, which tells you to, how to dump the bad stuff and take on the good. Maybe we need a book from you, Michael. David and Michael's book of Don't Feel This, Feel That. We need to help people find a new way to align their stinking thinking
There's
so that they
benefits
can
to
have a
that
more
thinking,
fulfilling life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
get it.
but as you said, it's not good benefits, right?
Right,
There's
it's not.
benefits to these mothers that are poisoning their children because, oh, my child is always so sick, and oh, poor Veronica, she has to live through this. Her poor children, she never gets a break. So there is that accolades. They call it what is it, Munchausen by proxy, where they're hurting somebody else
by
to get
proxy,
the
yeah.
accolades. It's a twisted deal, and there's a lot of
I
strange
agree.
stories like that exist. But maybe again, like I said, that they need somebody that can teach them, do this, don't do that. If you want this attention, let's show you a better way to get attention instead of hurting yourself or hurting others. So we'll have to come together on that, Michael. We'll light up a
write
couple of
book,
cigars and sit down and knock out a book. Now we've got very little time left, about 5 minutes together here. Walk-ins, the concept of souls come in. Now, heaven can wait, Mr. Jordan, the famous movies that have been out there about this, where, death came a little too early and they're allowed to go back in and take over another life that ended prematurely. Is that a real thing? There are people that claim to be walk-ins. What do you make of that?
I see it a lot. Yeah, I've seen it a lot.
Really?
It's like the soul that was there. Like, okay, say a guy has a stroke and he comes out of the stroke and people are like, boy, Bob, you just don't seem like the same guy. And the guy's, he's happy, he's okay, he's just getting through it, but he's not the same guy. It's like that. Bob's soul left because he was finished. And the other guy, maybe he was one of those guys that did commit suicide. Maybe he didn't finish the death process. Maybe he has to just go through that whole thing. Maybe he's gonna get a second chance to do some things that he wasn't able to do before. But I see it all the time. People contact me and go, God, my husband, he's not the same guy since I know him. He's great. I like him way more than the other guy, but he's not the same guy. Or sometimes sometimes it's like the person's completely different. Like their favorite color's different. Their favorite food's different. Everything's completely different. But walk-ins, you can usually tell by the eyes. You can usually tell when the person's that you've known all this time, their eyes are different. It's like they're talking to you. They're saying the same stuff. Their voice is the same, but there's something in their eyes. And they say that walk-ins are all about just finishing up some karmic debt, maybe that you owed, or that the other soul is all finished. And but it's usually after an accident or some sort of illness or some sort of something where they're out for a little bit, and then the soul comes in, the other one leaves. But I see it a lot. I mean, not but yeah, I see a lot. Yeah.
Can a body, a vessel
they're different.
have more than one soul at a time? Could I have a walk-in while I'm still checked in to the Hotel Schrader?
That'd be tough. You can do it when you're drunk. Like, how when you're drunk, like people go, boy, you weren't yourself last night, Bob. And they go, well, yeah, because they weren't. There were probably like 7 or 8 guys in there, but it's tough when you're sober to have more than your soul, just because, your soul is pretty connected to your body. Right. There. It's a one body, one soul kind of deal there, mostly, unless you're, pretty loaded, then it's all bars loose. You can just jump in there. But yeah, it's when you're sober, it's one soul, one body kind of thing. At least from what I understand. Yeah, I mean, I think I know that there's people that have had a couple different souls in there. There's schizophrenic people. There's different personality people, and I know that happens. I can't say it doesn't happen, but it's kind of rare. Yeah. It is a little rare.
Well, Michael, we've been apart too long. We should get together here soon. Let's get out and
I know, I miss you,
go out
bud.
and
I'm
do
so
some
happy
ghost
to
hunting.
go.
Thank you, my friend.
Or golfing.
And let's. I don't golf. That's an out-of-body experience I'm not willing to have. I figure if I still love my wife enough to not go walk 18 miles a day, hitting a little white ball and then going to find it and then hitting it further again. So we'll find something cool to do together. But Michael, thank you as always for joining us today.
Hey, it was great to see you.
It's been a pleasure.
Again.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
I hope so. Amazing guy, amazing stories. There's a link for Michael in tonight's episode guide so you can find it and find information about him and readings. Ghostly regrets in the afterlife. Lead a good life now. Do your best to be kind, to be loving, to make things right so that A, you don't have to make things right through a medium, or B, you don't have to wallow on the other side trying to look for another in and a second chance. I'd like to thank my guest, Michael Bodine. Check out the link we provided to keep up with him and his work. And thank you all for visiting the Paranormal 60, allowing me along on your journey. May the darkness be just a little more light with the information that we share here. Make sure to like this video and the podcast, subscribe, and tell everyone you know about it. And for our new podcast listeners, welcome to the world of the Paranormal 60. We'll be back again next week with more awesome content and amazing stories to share. And we'll be back this Friday with the Paranormal News Crew right here on the Paranormal 60 with Dave Schrader. The Paranormal 60 is part of the UnX Network. If you want more great programs like the Paranormal 60, check out the UnX Network.